think we are live here at IMX 2026 in Nashville, Tennessee. We're back with the Inland Marine Insights podcast, kind of the official podcast arm of IMX 2026. Super excited to be here today with the Reverend Mark Nestlehutt with Seamen Church Institute. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you including me this year.
Super glad to have you. Super excited to chat with you. I would love, obviously our organizations have worked, fairly closely over the years on several different initiatives, but for folks that don't know about all the wonderful things that Seamen's Church Institute is doing, would you mind just kind of giving a brief introduction to you and all the awesome things that SCI is doing?
Great. Why don't I'll start with the Seamen's Church Institute, then I'll do a little bit about myself.
Yeah.
So the Seamen's Church Institute has been working on behalf of seafarers and now mariners since 1834, founded in Lower Manhattan. Our mission has remained consistent over the last almost 200 years. We now identify it as being 3 mission areas. So one of the mission areas is what we would call seafaring mariner services, which would include chaplaincy, mental health support, crisis responses, which we do as well. A crisis would be anything from a container ship has an collision with a bridge in Baltimore Harbor, or there is a mid-air collision between a U.S. Black Hawk helicopter and an American Airlines jet. So we deploy chaplains at the request of the industry to those incidents as well. That's our crisis response. And then also we do hospitality for international seafarers at our centers, transportation for them. The second ministry area is education and training. So we operate 2 state-of-the-art simulator training facilities, one in the Houston Ship Channel, the other one is in Paducah, Kentucky, sort of the heart of the inland marine industry.
Yeah.
And we do simulator training on Kongsberg simulators, Wärtsilä simulators. We do e-learning for about 11,000 mariners, everything from rules of the road to everything that you would sort of need to maintain your training. And that can be done on something as small as a smartphone. And then our last area is advocacy. It used to be called Seafarer Rights. It's now called Mariner Advocacy. It's everything from mental health support, but also if you think on the international stage, it includes working with seafarers around abandonment issues, around shore leave, any sort of issues with regard to back pay. Right now, a lot of our focus is on what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz. And so we have retired Coast Guard captains who are attorneys who basically work for us and advocate on behalf of seafarer and mariner issues at the International Maritime Organization in London and the International Labor Organization in Geneva, Switzerland, also with the United States Coast Guard and with Congress around those issues to really sort of further mariner benefits to and well-being.
Awesome.
So those are our 3 areas. My background is grew up in Georgia, went into the Navy right out of university.
Thank you for your service.
Served as an intelligence officer with an air wing. And then after that, worked in production, security, and engineering lending in New Orleans, went into corporate trust, took a buyout, went to divinity school, got ordained, spent 20 years in parish ministry, 13 of those years in a maritime parish on the Chesapeake Bay, and then ultimately found my way to the Seamen's Church Institute.
Wow. Would you say that's probably a non-traditional path to ministry? I was expecting you to say like military chaplaincy.
No military chaplaincy, no. So when people are incredibly profane in front of me and apologize, I'm like, look, I was a naval officer.
Yeah.
No problem there. And a rugby player, so you got that too. I think what happened was really when I was coming out of college, it was a time when the Episcopal Church, so I'm an ordained Episcopal priest, was wanting you to go get real world experience. And so Navy made sense. I originally wanted to fly. That didn't happen, so went the intel route. And then it just sort of kept working, but there was a call to kind of come back into ministry. And finally, when I took a buyout, when 2 banks merged, I went to divinity school at that point. So I was 32 and then did parish ministry for about 20 years.
Awesome. So, well, thank you so much for that intro and just all the awesome things that you guys are doing at Seamen's Church. Mark, one of the questions that we're or topics that we're having conversations around while we're here at IMX is what are the exciting things that you're seeing in your space? Obviously you guys have a very wide kind of lens that you operate through, and we could probably talk about 30 different initiatives that you guys are involved in, but just high level, what's something that's kind of exciting that you guys got going on that you're excited about looking into the future for?
That's a great question. Thank you. So for us, it's all about mariner first. So we say that we work with companies, we partner with companies, but really we're there for their mariners. And so when we do our training, because a lot of companies train with us, continuing education for their mariners, these would be steersmen or pilots or captains on their vessels. What we like to point out to the mariner is your company is paying you to get this training, but it's portable. If you leave and go to another company, that stays with you.
Sure.
And so you're always improving your own skill set, which is what we've been trying to do. We got into training in 1899, really to sort of try and advance seafarer well-being so that they could advance their careers and make more money and put more food on the table for their families and have a more stable lifestyle. That continues today. So being mariner focused means that we're always trying to figure out how do we solve mariner problems, and we partner with the industry and with companies to do that. So probably the most exciting thing that I think we're working on in that space right now is, let me digress for a moment. We stood up a Mariner Wellness Steering Committee almost 2.5 years ago, coming out of COVID, 3 years ago, coming out of COVID, which was an industry staffed committee. So it's chaired by a guy named Jim Guidry. It has this really illustrious physician named Kyle Turnbow on it.
I've heard of him.
It has mostly people in the HR space within the companies, and then it's convened by one of my colleagues, Phil Shiflin, who's a retired Coast Guard captain. He's captain of the Port of New Orleans and also a Coast Guard attorney. And we say, what does the industry need help with, and where can Seamen's Church step in? And one of the things we keep bumping into is coming out of COVID, we realized that there was basically mental health issues just skyrocketed, or at least our awareness that people were having mental health issues skyrocketed coming out of COVID. And the question was, how do you address those? And a mariner lifestyle is quite different than someone who works in an office or now works from home. And how do you provide it? We've all become familiar with telemedicine, but because of regulations and licensing, it's sort of hard to do that across state lines. And of course, mariners get on vessels and they sail across state lines overnight or along the same day. So one of the things we finally done as of yesterday is we signed a memorandum of understanding with a licensed clinical social worker to do a pilot project where what we're going to do is we are going to identify already licensed mental health professionals, whether they're therapists or social workers, and we are basically going to create a training module to expose these mental health professionals to what a mariner lifestyle is like. So we're working with the industry to come up with e-learning modules, probably just one or two, that would help someone coming from outside the industry to understand what are the stressors in a mariner's life. What does it mean to get on and be on 28 days on, 28 days off, or 21 on, 14 off, whatever your rotation happens to be. Why is it so stressful getting off the boat and going back home? Why is it stressful leaving home and going to the boat? What is it like having the second family on the boat? And what if you don't get along with everybody on the boat? Plus all the financial pressures, plus the comorbidities, the issues with drinking, smoking, everything else that comes to play. And so we're going to basically develop a pool of mental health professionals who we certify and say, they've completed a basic training. They at least understand what a mariner's confronting and what their lifestyle is like, so that we don't have mariners getting frustrated, which is the current situation. They'll finally work through their EAP, they'll get connected with a mental health professional, and they'll spend their first hour of that trying to explain what my lifestyle is like. And so the industry asked us to work on this. We're going to try and come up with maybe an initial pool of about 20 licensed mental health professionals. We'll keep a database for them. They're going to work with all of the various companies' EAPs to get certified so that they can be reimbursed for this. But that's something that we've been working on. It's a pilot project. It launches on June 15th. It's about a 6-month project to get this up and running. And then we'll test with the industry to see how successful it is.
That's awesome.
But that's probably one of the most exciting things we're doing in the space right now.
That is a much needed initiative. I cannot wait to see, kind of how that plays out. And, we were joking before the show, just kind of chatting that, a large part, you have a service and veteran background as well as I do, military background. And I've always thought like the parallels and how unique and similar mariner kind of lifestyle and some of the challenges that exist in the military side of being in an austere environment, high risk, high hazard, remote locations, disconnected from your family. And to your point, just trying to bridge the gap to get our traditional, not just healthcare, but all health resources aligned to understand how to support that is just such a big hurdle, just like on the military side of how unique that world and that culture is as well, from a chaplaincy perspective or from a healthcare provider perspective. So such a cool initiative that you guys are working on, and very much appreciated. What, kind of, and I think you kind of alluded to this already, what are like some challenges, unique challenges that you kind of see in the space right now, whether there's opportunities associated with them or not? What's some of the biggest challenges that kind of jump out to you?
Well, I'm going to piggyback on what you were saying about military service and the similarities of that. One of the things I think the industry benefited from, I'm not sure overall as a country we benefited from it at the end of the day, but the U.S. wars with Iraq and also with Afghanistan meant that we had these sort of forever wars for about 20 years.
Yep.
One of the byproducts of that was that people, mainly enlisted personnel separating from the military, were excellent prospects for the inland marine industry because they'd already been away. They were already been separated from family.
Yeah.
They already knew what it was like to sort of be buttoned down and organized. They knew how to live by a schedule.
Yeah.
And they knew how to work as a team. When that pipeline went away, all of a sudden now you're seeing, recruiting efforts are coming from people who, it's a job, do I take a job at Walmart or at Target, or what do I want to do? But probably not the same sort of disciplined background coming into it. And I think that's been a bit of a generational challenge for the industry to now sort of onboard people who have a very different expectation about access to social media, access to Wi-Fi. These are sort of now human rights for them, right? Maybe civil rights, I'm not sure. So I think that's kind of a piece of the challenge is how does the industry juggle people coming from various backgrounds? Because it used to be, I worked as a deckhand, worked my way up, my son does that, my grandfather did that kind of thing. And so there's an enculturation that happens, and you have a sense of shared experiences, which also goes to things like diet, right? So some of the past initiatives we've tried to work on companies with are like, how do you try and control rates of obesity and things like that on a vessel? Just limit all the things that might lead to diabetes or congestive heart failure or anything over the years. And one of them was a study done by Dawn Knoll at Southern Illinois University. And she tested this. She said, why don't we just go away from the giant platters that we give them, and just give them regular plates? And so they tried that at a couple of companies, and what mariners felt was, well, no, this is one of my perquisites of my job, is all the food I can eat. So breaking that and trying to move towards healthier dietary habits has been something that's been a challenge culturally, meaning sort of the culture of certain parts of the country vis-a-vis other parts of the country, but also now generationally, because as you have younger mariners come in, often they are more concerned about diet, but the person making the decisions about what's on the shopping list is in the wheelhouse and is 20 years older. So I think companies are really going to have to figure out how to sort of integrate people coming in who might want a healthier lifestyle and somehow bring them into a vessel and make them feel welcome. So that's one challenge. Another initiative that one of my chaplains came up with and just did a pilot project on last week is at a company meeting at, I guess I'd say the company, Marquette. She discovered that most of the mariners on board, when they confide to someone, they don't confide to the captain, they confide to the cook. Because the cooks are almost similar to their mother's ages, their grandmother's ages. They're the only woman typically on board these vessels in many cases. And so what Grace Pardon, who was the chaplain based in Paducah, did is she did a preparation around like just psychological preparation. How do you sort of work with people? What are proper responses? How would you encourage a mariner? Maybe you might want to call one of the chaplains, or maybe you want to reach out to your EAP so that they become on the front lines as another resource and sort of advocate for a mariner to make sure that they're taking care of themselves, both mentally and physically. So that's something that she just worked with a new group of cooks coming into Marquette's training program, just to make them aware that you might be a resource for mariners who are having a bad day. And it might be something where you just say, sorry, having a bad day. Would you like a brownie? Or it might be like, have you maybe thought about reaching out to one of the chaplains, or maybe reaching out and using your EAP or something to get mental health support. So that's another great initiative that's just happened.
So interesting, just something that's kind of literally like right under your nose as far as a resource and connection and conduit for support and
I would have
sounding
never thought
board.
of it.
Yeah.
If I'd have thought of it, we would have done it 6 years ago.
Sure.
But no, Grace just stumbled right on
Yeah.
it. And actually, she didn't stumble on it. She just was paying attention and listening and really picked up on that. And then approached Marquette and said, "Hey, I'd like to do this. What do you think?" And they're like, "Yes, let's do that.
Awesome.
Let's try it."
To your point on kind of the workforce and the kind of the generational differences that we're kind of starting to see now on kind of that post GWAT era, coming out of Iraq and Afghanistan, as far at least from the military talent pool. Somebody told me this the other day, and it really resonated with me, that I think for the first time ever in the modern workforce, we're dealing with 4+ different generations of folks actively working. So it's really kind of forced us to look at talent management through a super broad lens that a lot of us aren't used to from, current generation back. There's some very different expectations to your
So what are we running at through? The aging baby boomers who are now like the oldest baby boomers would be just over 60 now, I guess.
I think, yeah.
And you drop that all the way down to what? Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z?
Yeah.
No, Gen X. Yeah.
I get them confused too.
Me too. Millennials. We could ask you.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah.
But there's a lot. There's a lot of new cultural generational challenges that are just net new to all of us in the workforce today, to your point.
I remember when my kids were younger and in school and going to a presentation and somebody saying, you have to realize there are 3 generations of people out there around technology. You have dinosaurs, you have immigrants, and then you have natives.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? They're like, well, dinosaurs are people like your grandparents' age who are like, I'm never going to get on social media. I'm not going to use a smartphone. And then there's our generation. Well, I'm older than you, but my generation sort of learned how to use technology, but I wasn't,
born with it.
I was born with it. And then our kids, who pretty much, you need a problem solved, they could probably solve it for you at 4 years of age.
Yeah.
Oh, I can make your iPhone work.
Yeah.
So I think that we see that too. The challenge and the downside is when you get on a boat and you're sitting in the mess or in the galley, and you're right across the table from one of your crew, your crewmates, and you're like this on your phone, and they're like this on their phone, and there's no sort of conversation between you. Well, an HR person who used to work in the industry said to me, we almost need e-learning modules about just how to be a human being and how to do the things your parents didn't teach you how to do that you should do to be a good human being.
Yeah.
Because I think that there is this sense that people just get so stuck into their own little world and following their own thing that we don't really bond connection. And take advantage of building those relationships and people you rely on when you're underway.
Sure. No, that I know we could probably unpack that for many more hours to come. But the one of the last questions I wanted to ask was really, if we had the crystal ball in front of us today and we were kind of looking 5, 10 plus years in the future, what is Mark's kind of vision of what's to come? What do you think's around the corner, whether it's with Seamen's Church in particular, and things that you guys are developing or hoping to develop, or just the industry as a whole? What do you think is kind of the future state of some things coming maybe down the pipeline?
Yeah, well, I think the interesting thing that's going to happen is I think this is one of the industries that's least likely to be fully automated.
Yeah.
So we're always going to need human capital. We're going to need people who can come in and really roll up their sleeves and get the work done. At the same time, I think some of the technologies are going to make some of the maybe certain aspects of the job go away, and so it's probably going to become a workforce that will need to be more tech savvy, perhaps. But if I'm looking at what would I like to see happen, we just released this Yale report that has all of the challenges confronting the industry. If we can get to the point where we've addressed all those challenges and mariners have incredibly healthy lifestyles and we feel that we can support them shoreside, that would be my vision for the future.
Great. Yeah, and I think just to plug for, you guys are actually going to dive into that report tomorrow morning here at IMX.
Yes.
10:15, I believe.
10:15, that's right.
Starboard meeting room. So if you guys are listening and can catch this before, definitely come check that out. But super exciting to watch the initiatives, that everything that you guys are working on. I know the industry definitely appreciates it. It's a much needed much needed service for the industry. So very, very grateful. Super fun to kind of watch what you guys are working on from afar. And thank you so much for coming by the podcast here today. For folks that are listening, Mark, if they wanted to learn more, anything else about all the cool things that you guys are working on at Seamen's Church Institute, or connect with you personally, what's the best way for folks to connect?
Best way is to go through our website, which is seamenschurch.org, SeamenSchurch.org. And you can find us there on the website, or you could always, well, that's the easiest way to find us.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for swinging by, and I hope you have a good rest of your IMX conference.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks.
Appreciate you having me.